Am I the asshole for not acting impressed by my wife's accomplishment? And accomplishment is in quotes, like accomplishment. We are already getting sass, you know? My 28 male wife, 26 female, and I have been married for close to 7 years. We currently have 5 kids together, 6 male, 4 male, 3 female, and my wife gave birth to fraternal twins, son and daughter, a year and a half ago.
Oh shit. Okay.
I almost read this one for 100.
Were these people born like 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago?
They might just be Mormon.
That's like our parents, like getting married at like 21, like having like all like 5 kids before 30.
To give math really quick, she's 26 now. They've been married for 7 years. She was 19. So, and their first kid is 6.
Damn.
So they got married and literally started trying for kids.
Wow. Yeah.
So young mom.
Yeah.
My wife intended to graduate high school the year we got married, but life got in the way. My dad had given me an investor relations type of role at his company, so we were traveling a lot, and then after that, our kids needed our attentions. After our twins were born, my wife was bedridden for longer than we and even the doctors expected. Since we had to hire extra hands to do the childcare tasks that involved mobility, my wife had some time on her hands. Her mother told her that her friend, who proctors at a testing center, said they give GED tests basically every week, at least across the state of Idaho, and that she should dust off her general education knowledge. She started browsing her laptop and decided to roll in a GED prep class online. It seems she was better at self-paced learning than classroom learning because the stuff they were testing her on came way easier for her now than it did even then, though she's been away from structured classroom instruction for many years now. Even after she was back on her feet, she'd be studying for it after she dropped the older 2 off at their respective schools. I would see what she was studying and it looked pretty rudimentary, and I knew that getting a GED basically means nothing and that she probably wouldn't be able to apply it to anything career-wise or commit full-time to community college, where I doubt the job prospects for students are that great right now either. So my wife ended up taking the test, and the other day she bounded into the room and said, quote, "Yes, I passed. I passed." I knew she would since she was doing well on the practice tests and the GED consistently tests on the same rudimentary topics. I did not gripe at her, but merely nodded at her and went back to answering an important email from a client.
What the fuck?
My wife seemed to get upset, and I asked her what was wrong. She said I didn't seem that excited, and I said that it's great that she passed, but I have been telling her that it was easy and no big deal. But if she needed something to prove to herself, she knew the high school concepts, I guess the money was well spent. She got even more upset and said she worked very hard, and this was the essential building blocks to being able to start a career. Am I the asshole? My wife passed her GED test, but she wasn't exactly graduating from college and wouldn't be for at least 15 years. I just didn't see any immediate applicability to her test, but I am glad she had something to challenge her while she was coming off being unable to fully care for the kids. My parents revealed a 19-year-old secret to save my relationship. I, 18 female, turning 19 next month, have been dating my boyfriend, 19 male, for almost 2 years now. Everything has been going great. We got emancipated and now own an apartment in the outside of a very small town and are soon to open a car wash together. Last week, we were at a family reunion where the topic of my late grandmother, dad's side, was brought up, and my father pulled out some pictures of her. My mother-in-law, I will be referring to my boyfriend's mother that way, freaked out and looked super nervous when she saw pictures of my grandma. Oh. Then she left the room for a few minutes while the topic continued. She later came back with pictures of my and my boyfriend's grandmothers, both unalive right now, together. The pictures led all the way to their late teens and early 20s, right before my dad was born. Apparently, my great-grandfather had an affair where he had my boyfriend's grandmother, and since my grandma was the oldest, she knew about it apparently. They were raised separately, but were still related. My grandma and her dad kept this secret from the rest of the family. At least, that is why we think no one else knew. So, the math started. Our grandmas were sisters. That makes my dad and his mom, my boyfriend's mom, direct cousins. And me and my boyfriend would be second cousins. Obviously, me and my boyfriend started to cry. I started to have a panic attack, and my mother-in-law was was still in what looked like shock, but my parents seemed so calm. Eventually, my dad snapped. Quote, all right, we need to say something. You can all calm down. Blank is not my biological daughter. They're okay to date. You're fine. My name, like in parentheses. I stopped crying, but only for a second. Then I continued, but this time yelling, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, over and over. Still to this day, those 3 words keep repeating in my mind. Their story was that my mom and dad dated in college, then broke up, then a few years later they reunited. My mom was 5 months pregnant when they decided to give it a try, with him promising her to give me his last name and care for me, which he's done a great job at. He was the one to sign my birth certificate, making me unrelated by blood to him, therefore unrelated by blood to my boyfriend. But my mom didn't want people to know that I wasn't really his, so she made him keep the secret for 19 years. My girlfriend whispered something to me when she thought I was asleep. Because of my job, I always wake up way earlier than my girlfriend, literally 2 hours earlier. So I also have to go to bed way earlier than her to get enough sleep. Yesterday evening, when I went to bed, I couldn't really sleep because I had an important event today at work that made me nervous. So I was still awake when my girlfriend went to bed. I was really hot, yes, even during winter, so I slept without my blanket. I thought about talking to her. Something told me to keep my eyes closed, and I did. She took the blanket and covered me with it. Then she kissed me on the forehead, and then she said it. She whispered it. She said every single word. Some people might say it's too cheesy, but I don't, and I can remember every single word. I love you. I love you so much. I love you more than anything in the world. I love you more than words can express. You make me laugh. You make me happy. You make me feel loved. I've never liked the idea of getting married, but you changed my mind. I want to stay with you forever. I'd rather die than live without you. My life isn't complete if you're not in it.
Wow.
I love you.
Why didn't she say that when he was awake?
Then she kissed my forehead again, and I tried my best not to let her know I was awake, which was hard because I teared up. After that, she went back to her side of the bed and laid down. I only then opened my eyes. I laid there for at least a half an hour until she started snoring, and I knew she was asleep. I got up, went to the bathroom, and cried my eyes out.
Aww. Why are you guys just being secretive?
This was the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. I've never felt so much love in my life. After many years of bullying, my self-confidence was so destroyed that I didn't know if I deserved to be loved, let alone that anyone could love me like that. What made it even more special was the fact that my girlfriend had a bad past and had a lot of trouble showing her feelings on the outside. Even with me, she had a hard time being vulnerable sometimes. And the fact that she said this when she thought I couldn't hear her means that what she said came from her heart. My boyfriend, 23 male, and I, 23 female, have been together nearly 5 years. We have been really good friends for about 3 years before we started dating, and I always liked his parents. Things were great when we first started dating, but within the past year, his mom has taken a turn. He's always been a bit of a mama's boy, but she's really ramped it up in the last year. This year, on a bunch of my special days, birthdays, our anniversary, my graduation party, she calls him and tells him big family news. On my birthday, she told him that she found a lump in her breast 3 months prior and left it at that. Hours later, she called back after he was understandably upset the rest of the day and said, quote, oh yeah, it ended up being nothing, but I figured I should tell you. Also happened at my graduation party. She told him that a family member had been in a car crash 3 weeks prior and now is not doing well. One phone call with bad timing is understandable, but it happens pretty frequently. Also, they talk every day, so there's no reason why she wouldn't have told him prior. Most recently, we were at his grandparents' anniversary party, and he and I were dancing to Perfect by Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
About 30 seconds into the song, she came over and pushed me out of the way and said, quote, let me dance with my son. I walked away and he just let it happen, which was probably for the best as to not cause drama. I was super upset by this, as was he, and we had yet another conversation about his mom. They don't treat any of the other significant others like this, and I have no idea what it did to make things like this. She is not a widow, nor a single mom. She's been with my boyfriend's dad forever. I don't believe it has anything to do with a lack of emotional validation. My boyfriend is good at setting boundaries, but she just continues to cross them. How do I go about this?
Am I the asshole for showing up at my ex's wedding in a pretty dress? My ex and I had a peaceful divorce. We co-parent with our 3 children together, and there hasn't been any issues. My ex is getting married to Stephanie. I like Stephanie. She's been great with my kids and makes my ex happy. My ex invited me to their wedding, and I was happy for him. His reasoning was that it was my day with the kids, so that it made sense for me to come. When I arrived at the wedding, Stephanie thanked me for dropping the kids off and brushed me off. We never had any issues before. I explained that I was going to stay for the reception, and she was very upset. I was confused because I assumed she knew I would be in attendance. It turned out that she didn't consider that I would actually accept the invitation. I told her that I was invited, and since I took a 2-hour drive, I would be staying for the entire duration. She didn't like this response. Stephanie asked me to leave, and I stood my ground. She went on to complain about my dress upstaging hers. My ex and former mother-in-law helped to calm her down, and the wedding shortly began. I thought that was the end of it, but later in private, Stephanie accused me of trying to ruin her special day. She's convinced that I wanted to show off and make the wedding about my divorce. She said it was rude of me not to leave after the bride requested it because it was her special day. I told her that I'm not responsible for her insecurities, and once again reminded her that I have no interest in stealing my ex back. So am I the asshole?